What's going on, you guys? Happy Saturday. Welcome back to Fantasy Football. I hope you all did well for Thursday night. I played against Kenyon Drake and DeAndre Hopkins, so I'm screwed. But my parlay is still good for now, so that's good. And I've got my start, sits, and sleepers for you guys for tomorrow and Monday night. We will begin with my last two starts at running back. On Wednesday, I gave you guys my first start at running back, which was Lamar Miller. If you started him, he ended up with 133 yards and a touchdown, so that was a good one to have. My next start should be fairly obvious, especially at this point, now that we know that Royce Freeman is out for Sunday's game against the Chiefs. But if you have Phillip Lindsay, I have a feeling he is going to kill it. The only time the Broncos were really productive against the Chiefs were when we ran the ball. So if they don't figure that out, I don't know what else to do. Start Phillip Lindsay. I think that Marlon Mack is a good start in Week 8 at Oakland. Week 7, he finished with 19 carries, 126 yards, and a touchdown. And so far this season, the Raiders have allowed 7 running backs to either score or gain 100 yards. My first sit at running back this week is, again, my own running back, Isaiah Crowell. The Jets are taking on the Bears in Chicago. Two things. Crowell hasn't really done anything since his 200-yard rushing game against who else? But also, the Bears are still the only NFL team who have not allowed a rushing touchdown. So I know that Khalil Mack is kind of on a day-to-day basis. They don't know for sure if he's going to play or not. I realize he is the biggest part of that Bears defense, but I also think that they will be fine at home against the Jets. So I'm going to go ahead and sit Crowell for Week 8. My second sit is actually going to be 2 players, so it's Wendell Smallwood and Corey Clement. I'm just going to say don't start any of the Eagles running backs against Jacksonville this week. Not only are they likely to be splitting carries, but the Jaguars defense is only allowing an average of 4 yards per carry to running backs this season, so I wouldn't count on either of them to have an overly productive day. My last sit at running back might be a little bit controversial. I kind of had this conversation already with my fiance because it is his running back, but I just have a feeling that you guys should sit Latavius Murray. I know, crazy. I'm not feeling it this week. Yes, Latavius Murray did run for 69 yards and 2 touchdowns last week, but let's not forget, this is a revenge game for the New Orleans Saints after that divisional playoff game last year. Not only that, but the Saints' run defense is continuing to improve. Right now, they are allowing an average of 72 rushing yards per game and holding running backs to less than 3.1 yards per carry, which right now is the best in the NFL. Maybe I'm wrong and he comes out and kills it, but that's up to you guys. He's not on my fantasy team, so I don't have to make that final decision, but I'm just here for advice, and my advice is to sit Latavius Murray in Week 8. For my sleepers, I already gave you guys Kenyon Drake for Thursday night. He rushed for 58 yards and a touchdown, so that one worked out. My other sleeper at running back is Tariq Cohen at home against the Jets. All right, so moving into quarterbacks, my first start at quarterback for Week 8 is Mitchell Trubisky. And I'm going to drop something on you that I didn't know, maybe a lot of people don't know, but with all the hype around Patrick Mahomes, I feel like this is kind of an important stat. So in the last 4 weeks, Mitchell Trubisky has outscored Patrick Mahomes in fantasy by 5 points, but the significance in that is that that includes a Bears bye week. He's just been killing it, and if you guys watched the game last week, he is dangerous throwing the ball, he's able to scramble, and he can run. So Trubisky is my first start at quarterback. My next start at quarterback, and I feel like everyone's still keeping him as a sleeper, but I've got faith, Baker Mayfield against the Steelers. I don't know why, I just have a feeling it's going to be a close game. I know that almost all of the Browns games have been low scoring, but I actually think that might change a little bit this week. So I'm going to say start Baker. And finally, my last start at quarterback for Week 8 is going to be Jameis Winston against Cincinnati. The Bengals have really been struggling defensively. They've allowed 15 passing touchdowns and the 5th most fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks. Getting into my sits at quarterback for Week 8, my first sit is going to be Joe Flacco at Carolina. Carolina's defense at home has been crazy good. They have been holding quarterbacks to an average of 14 fantasy points per game. Joe Flacco is not elite. Let's not forget, okay? He's not. So I'm going to say sit him. at Carolina. My second sit is Matt Stafford against Seattle. Seattle's defense also playing well. They've only allowed one quarterback to score 20 or more fantasy points. My last sit at quarterback is Alex Smith at the New York Giants. I feel like this is going to be more of a running game for the Redskins. Alex Smith hasn't been playing well anyway, even against favorable matchups, and it doesn't help that almost all of his receivers are hurt right now. So I would expect to see a lot of Adrian Peterson, not so much production from Alex. My sleeper at quarterback for week 8 is Derek Carr against the Colts. I feel like with all the drama and everything that's been going down with the Raiders, that he has something to prove. Maybe he has a good game. I don't know who he's going to throw it to. Jordy. I think that's it.
Bueller.
Speaking of Jordy Nelson, guess who my first starter at wide receiver is this week? Since Derek Carr can't throw the ball to 2019 first-round draft picks, I would say that if the Raiders do well, Jordy Nelson is going to be the main reason. My other start at wide receiver is Tyler Boyd. I had him as a start last week, and he did terrible. However, they're taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have been awful against slot receivers so far this year. How awful, you ask? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense has allowed 10 touchdowns to slot receivers so far this year and an average of more than 30 fantasy points per game. 30 average to slot receivers. I think Tyler Boyd gets it done this week. He makes up for last week. I say start him. On the flip side of that, a team who is defending well against slot receivers is the Washington Redskins. So far this season, they've only allowed 1 touchdown to the position, which is why my first sit at wide receiver is Sterling Shepard. My final sit for week 8 is going to be Tyler Lockett at Detroit. The Lions are a team that have also been playing well defensively against receivers, and Tyler Lockett's just not really seeing a high volume of catches this year, not even really targets. He only has 1 game with more than 6 targets all season. I don't see that increasing against a Lions defense. And as you guys know, if you watched my video on Wednesday, my sleeper at wide receiver was Danny Amendola. Since Kenny Stills and Albert Wilson were both out, but I think he only finished with like 40-something yards and no touchdowns, so no dice for Danny, but now we can talk about my parlay. All right, so good news, my parlay did survive Thursday night. I took the Texans -7.5, so let's see who else I've got. In order of the games, I took under 44 in the Panthers-Ravens game. I think that'll be a strong defensive game. I'm hoping not a lot of points getting scored. I took the Browns underdogs +8.5 against the Steelers. Go Baker. I took under 49.5 in the Lions-Seahawks game. Same thing. I just don't see that really being a high-scoring game, hopefully. I took the Bears -7.5, the Colts -3, Packers +9.5. I was kind of surprised that the Rams were favored by that much, but I don't know. Maybe that undefeated streak ends tomorrow. We'll see. And then I took the Patriots -13.5 against the Bills. The last time I took a team like that against the Bills was the Vikings when they were -16, and the Bills killed them. But I'm hoping that Tom Brady does his thing that he always does and beats the Bills by a lot. Okay, so that was my parlay and my start, sits, and sleepers for you guys for week 8. Good luck in your fantasy leagues. Keep your fingers crossed for me. I want to win a parlay. I'm really trying. Thank you guys for watching my videos. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on Instagram at FantasyFootball 2018. I'll see you guys on Tuesday for my week 8 recap.